Hello there. Welcome to your first lesson. My name is Bradley Petersburg, the head TOEFL instructor of the Sonorpolis Academy, an online school where our mission is to help you get the best TOEFL score possible. Since August 1st, 2019, ETS, the creator of TOEFL, have made some changes to the test. It's important to understand what those changes are, as it can influence strategies on how to better study for the test. In this lesson, we'll talk about these changes and how you should study for it, given that there are currently no official study materials for the new test format yet. Let's jump right in. For the writing section, the old and the new version are mostly the same. The only noticeable difference is that the new version has a slightly longer passage for the independent task. For example, the old version of the independent task may appear something like this. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? It is beneficial for people to turn away from the news for a short period of time. Let's take a look at the new version. Nowadays, people tune into the news more often. Some stories present exciting information about the world, while others report on traumatic events. Some experts think that it is bad for people to have too much exposure to the news. Do you think that it's a good idea for people to turn away from the news for a short period of time? Why or why not? As you see, the new passage is longer and contains more words. But that doesn't mean that it's harder. You just have to know how to filter out the unimportant information and find the core of the question. And it's usually located towards the end of the passage. With that said, using the old questions as practice is still an effective study strategy, because the style and the topic of this task remains unchanged. With that, I would say the new writing section is slightly harder than the old one, because of the trickier passage that you have to read. Now let's talk about the reading section. We'll compare the old and the new reading section in terms of content, question types, number of questions, and time. As for the content, the old and the new versions both have 3 to 4 passages, and they have the exact same question types as well, so you can definitely use the old materials as preparation. Now, what's different is the number of questions. In the old reading section, each passage had only 12 to 14 questions, while the new reading section has only 10 questions per passage. As for the time, it has been reduced from a range of 60 to 80 minutes down to 54 to 72 minutes. So, let's look closely on how these changes will impact the test takers. Assuming we have the maximum number of passages and questions, 4 passages times 14 questions gives us a total of 56 questions, and we have 80 minutes for it. That means we get around 1 minute and 4 seconds for each question. Now let's compare that with the new reading section. A maximum of 4 passages times 10 questions gives us 40 questions in total. And we have 72 minutes for this section, which means that we get 1 minute and 18 seconds per question. It doesn't seem like a lot at first, but it adds up since there are quite a few questions. With that, I certainly think that the new reading section is easier than the old one. Let's move on to the listening section. In the listening section, the old version had 2 conversations on campus-related matters and 4 academic lectures with difficult terms. The new version has 2 conversations as well, but only 3 lectures. Both the old and the new version have the same type of questions, so we don't have to worry about changing our study method for this section. The old version had 34 questions, while the new one has 28. This is actually good news for some of you, because there are fewer questions on lectures. Many test takers think that the lectures are more difficult because they are full of academic terminology. In the old listening section, 10 out of the 34 questions, or about 29% of the test, were on conversation, and 24 questions were on lectures, which was about 71%. Compare it with the new listening section. Out of the 28 questions, there are 10 conversation questions, which is about 36% of the test, and 18 lecture questions, which is around 64%. We get fewer questions on the lectures with those nasty terms, so the listening section will likely be easier. However, there is a catch. While we had 60 minutes in the old listening section, we only get 41 minutes for the new one. So 60 minutes to answer 34 questions gave us 1 minute and 45 seconds per question. In the new version, we have 41 minutes to answer 28 questions, which gives 1 minute and 27 seconds per question. This is about 20 seconds fewer than what was allotted on the old version of the test, which could make it more challenging. Overall, the changes to the listening section make it slightly more difficult. Last, but not least, we have the speaking section. On the old version of the test, there were 6 questions in the speaking section. The independent task, where you describe something. Another independent task, where you discuss your preference and opinion on a topic. Integrated campus announcement, where you read a passage of a notice or an announcement about a campus matter, and then listen to 2 people talking about it. Integrated lecture, in which you read the definition of a term, and then listen to a lecture where the professor demonstrates the meaning of the term with examples. Integrated campus matter, where you listen to 2 people talking about an issue. Integrated lecture summary, where you listen to a lecture and report on what you've heard. ETS decided to take out the first and the 5th task, which seems to make this section easier. One thing to note, though, they have chosen to make the 2nd task longer, which we will go over extensively in the next lesson. Since 2 tasks were taken out, the time for this section is reduced from 20 minutes to 17 minutes. Overall, the speaking section has likely gotten easier, but do keep in mind the grading stays the same. You still have to provide a thought-out response. However, there are fewer questions in which you can demonstrate your speaking ability. So the takeaway. The TOEFL has remained largely unchanged in terms of its difficulty and question types, which means you can study with reliable resources geared towards the old test, of which we have a lot in store for you. A shorter TOEFL in general means that it's less physically and mentally demanding. And finally, know that you can master it with enough practice and preparation. Practice makes perfect. After a long time of practicing, our work will become natural, skillful, swift, and steady. If you have enjoyed our content and would like the latest updates on our lessons, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and let us know by commenting down below. Which section of the test do you think is the most difficult and why? As well as any questions that you may have regarding the lesson. It's nice to have you here, and I'll see you in the next lesson.